Everyone, welcome to Quick Served. Listen, this is, we're going to talk about matchups this show a little bit because I just finished watching Demon and Sinner, and I want to start this podcast because you see a lot of people in, commentary and comments, and it's like disparaging, and they act like it's easy for Sinner, or that Demon, I don't know. He takes a lopsided loss and people become apparently a lot better at what they do, right? Like Demon's 8th in the world in a global sport. You have some chucker saying, this guy stinks. Like, get out of here. You better be really good at your job if you're criticizing someone like Alex de Minaur. The guy maxes out every bit that he has. Can he serve, 140? Is he 6'8", like Petchy Pericard? No. Is he really fast? Yes. Can he create loads of spin on both sides? No. I was someone who couldn't, if you paid me $100 right now, I probably couldn't hit top spin on a backhand. I can relate. I get it. But then you layer in someone who is such a good fighter, athlete, is really smart, but then you take what Demon does well, moving in and out of the quarters, asking the question over and over again, not giving unforced errors, and then you add in a version of him that can serve big, spread the court, hit it 30 or 40% harder on average, and create spin, and then you have the matchup against Sinner and Demon. Doesn't mean Demon isn't a great player. It just means that Sinner is quickly approaching being one of the all-greats, and Demon becomes exposed in this specific matchup. Has lost 10 straight, and I don't think he's won a set in maybe, but it doesn't win sets. The score lines have largely been 3-0, 3-4, 3-4, 3-2-1. Today, I love Alex de Minaur. I hope he feels good about his run. Had lost in the 4th round a couple of times, made it to the quarters of his home slam. But listen, to get through a slam, it's largely matchup dependent, and the greats have the ability to switch it up and switch their games, play different ways outside of their own comfort set. Now, Sinner, if he's getting the first crack at the ball, right, if he creates the most speed, which he does against everyone, and how do you keep someone from creating the most speed and getting the first hit? You either hit it bigger, which I don't know if anyone can do right now, can hit it bigger than Jannnik Sinner, and or you switch directions and pace. And a couple of the people that can do that, Novak can switch directions. He can switch pace. Alcaraz can switch directions with drop shots, with height, and he can switch pace. Those are the two guys that bother Sinner the most. They bother everyone the most. There's a reason why they're the best players in the world. But I don't want this lazy coverage of the Demon Sinner matchup to do anything to take anything away from the Demon and what he's gotten out of what he's been given. He is an absolute rock star, respected in the locker room. Sinner, that being said, Sinner looked great. He looked not even a little stressed about this matchup. He knows what it is. Demon does not have the ability to be unpredictable, right? With his skill set, with his ball flight, with what he can give on the serve, it's not as if he has the option of serving risky or massive. So he has to take his chances by cutting off the corners, forcing it forward a little bit. That's how he can be aggressive. So people are like, why didn't you just come in more? You try coming in off Jannnik Sinner's ball. It's like tumbling at you. I was stunned last year at the US Open when I was watching him in person, because on TV you get that overhead view where it just looks like he's ripping. I was stunned court level how much height he's actually still getting on the ball. Like, it is a safe shot. He is not taking risk hitting it that big. Maybe like Andre hits it massive. Go ahead, Mike.
Can you layman terms that though? Like when you say the height that he's getting on the ball, you're talking about as it gets off the court.
Yes.
It's quickly getting up on the player that's returning.
It's margin. So he's creating RPMs and margin over the net. Most people that hit it that hard and that big, to do that, you normally have to flatten the ball out to get it to travel faster. Spin is great because it jumps off the court. You use spin to get it out of people's zones, to get it down, to get it up, Rafa to get it away, right? It's like that top spin that jumps out to the side and gets up at Rogers' backhand. Now, Sinner, from up above, it looks as if he's hitting like a massively flat ball because he's hitting it so hard. When you get down to court level, he actually has margin over the net. It's not clearing the net by 3 inches. It's clearing the net by 18 inches, which is something I don't know that I've seen with someone that's hitting it that hard consistently. Roger had both options, but when he wanted to really let it fly, it was flatter, right? He was a master of spin, manipulating the ball, could play against the other person's spin. It was great, but when he kind of got that torque and got that height, it wasn't coming through and skidding, right? It wasn't getting through the court. He creates as much margin compared to pace as anyone I've ever seen. And if you're Demon, I don't know how you stop that. Right now, if you're Ben Shelton, who he plays next, Ben has the ability to up the risk, right? He has 144 in his arm. I was teasing James Blake today because we were talking about how much Ben Shelton's going to need to like throw down 144 or mix it up. And James is leaning towards mix it up. And I'm like, listen, it's only a mix up if you establish your fastball. Right? If you're throwing 98 on the corners, then your 91 mile an hour split looks a little better. And I said, James, I finally understand why you never hit a serve 130. It's because you were just mixing it up. And he said, listen, some of us have options and some of us have ceilings. And I thought that was a really good way. And I thought about Demon. Demon has a ceiling on his serve, on the spin mechanisms, on a lot of the stuff that he does. He does what he does well, extremely well, but it's not as if he can go second serves or hit a kick that's up and away and out of the zone. It's just not the way that his body works, right? Some people are fast, some people aren't. Our bodies work in different ways. Ben Shelton has the ability to actually take some risk against Jannnik Sinner. Now, is that going to manifest in serving and volleying? I think it will, very clearly and very early on. Similar to my life against the best players, if Ben gets to neutral in these rallies against Sinner, he's actually behind because Sinner is going to find the backhand over and over and just keep pounding the zone. Ben has to keep points short. He has to take irresponsible risk at times, of which some commentators will be watching on different feeds will go, I can't wait for that shot. All right, it's like a fast death or a slow death, but the fast death actually has some upside, right? If you land it, then you can actually, it's the only way that he can win against Sinner. He's not going to win by playing a safe match. He has to be irresponsible sometimes, but he has the skill set where he can actually do that effectively. Sinner's going to have a lot more to think about against Ben Shelton. Now, ideas are easy. Execution's a lot tougher. Can you execute over the 3 or 4 hours it takes against Jannnik Sinner, who, by the way, just hit top flight? Like this match was top flight, right? I think we currently have 2 players in the tournament that have reached top flight. And I think that's Sinner and I think that's Novak. I think they're both favorites. And isn't it crazy to think that at the beginning of the tournament, people are talking about when is Novak going to retire? He didn't win an ATP event last year, he won the Olympics. And now we're going, oh yeah, he's favored against the number 2 player in the world. He's favored. He's like the clear favorite. Like I heard him on air on the telecast on ESPN, but he's the overwhelming favorite against Alex Zverev. I don't know that I disagree with him much. What he did, as we talked about in yesterday's show, and if you haven't heard it, please go back because I went full nerd on the Alcaraz Novak match. But listen, I didn't think there was going to be anything different in this result with Sinner. As soon as the temps were mild and they played it at night like they had to, if it wasn't a complete 97 degree, 120 degree on court melt box, I didn't see how the Demon was going through around Sinner. And that's what ended up happening. Now, let's give credit to another American in the semis, Madison Keys, grinding out a match against Svitolina. And by the way, let's celebrate really good tennis because we certainly can point out when people are average. You don't see a lot of matches that plus minus errors to winners are both in the positive. We've seen it 2 days in a row. Everyone's bagging on Alcaraz. He had 50 winners and 40 errors. Plus minus was 10 up. This match with Svitolina and Keys, Svitolina was 20 winners, 15 errors. Maddie was 49 winners, 41 errors, both in the positives. This was a very high level of tennis that was being played. Maddie Keys' forehand right now, and we talk about matchups again. Iga Swiatek rolled 1 and 2 against Emma Navarro. There just wasn't much that Emma could do, right? She can't ratchet up the serve. She can't hit a big kick. She can't. So she's had a better year than Maddie Keys over the 52 weeks. But the matchup with Keys versus Swiatek right now is going to bother Swiatek more, in my opinion. props to Emma Navarro. It's like she grinded out a quarterfinal without her fastball. Didn't have her best stuff for the entire tournament. And that's the type of stuff that keeps you in the top 10. Great showing for Emma Navarro, even though Iga was just too good. Iga's an all-time great. She's won 5 slams already. We have to give credit to the all-time greats. They just force you. They can run you out of the building when they're playing great, and they get through matches when they're not. I think Maddie Keys can bother Iga. Speed to the forehand is how you bother Iga Swiatek. Guess what Maddie Keys' best shot is? That pull forehand to the forehand and the forehand cross court to the forehand. And she creates as much speed, probably more speed than anybody, including Sabalenka on that forehand side. And I'm not being hyperbolic. You can look at the numbers. If I'm wrong, I'm not wrong by much. I like this matchup. I don't like the matchup for Maddie Keys because you're playing one of the all-time greats. I think she can be a lot more dangerous and will give Iga a lot more to think about than Emma Navarro could stylistically when Iga is in full flight. I'm excited for that one. Props to Maddie Keys. Now, Mike, you mentioned the short turnaround. You were asking about it where now Iga and Madison have to play back-to-back days. They got to even out the draws at some point, give them same amount of, ideally the same amount of time going into the final. You were saying that as if it's like, they got to play back-to-back days. They play back-to-back days every tournament of the year. Like you could argue, obviously slams are way more mentally demanding because of the consequences and because of what's at stake. But for the women, they play the same format and get a day off in between. Obviously, the men play best of 5 and get a day off in between. But the best of 5 is like you might as well be playing 3 matches in one day if you play a 5-setter. You feel like a zombie the next day. But I don't know that it's a big deal for a quick turnaround, especially when you're Iga and you're winning every match in 27 seconds. Maddie Keys, mentally, physically demanding match against Svitolina. Now we'll see how she pulls up, but she's essentially been playing tennis for 3 weeks straight. She won the warm-up event coming in. She looks great. I think she has the tools to bother Iga more than, anyone in the field, maybe this side of Sabalenka now. But I don't know how you bet against Iga. I had Iga and Sabalenka in the final on our draw show. I mean, I'd hate to go name all the finalists for the last 2 events with Sabalenka, Pegula at the Open and Swiatek, Sabalenka here, but we'll see. Still alive, still in the game. Producer Mike, but Shelton will be able to bother Sinner more than Demon did today. Keys will be able to bother Swiatek more than Navaro did today. Obviously, you're not going to choose against Sinner, and I don't think you're going to choose against Swiatek, but I do think there's more of a chess match, and the pieces are more dangerous in these given matchups. Sabalenka Badosa. Badosa did a great job of when the ball was hanging in the middle of the court against Koga Gauff, really letting go in the forehand. The problem is Sabalenka doesn't really leave balls hanging. I think Sabalenka's gotten the better of this one overall. I think she has to play below her floor for Badosa to have a chance. And I love Paula Badosa. I've been singing her praises this entire 2 weeks. It just becomes a matchup issue. I think Badosa has to serve great in order for this to go her way. Sabalenka hasn't been in full flight yet. I think Badosa has. I just think the matchup favors Sabalenka. In this one, we talked about Sinner Shelton a little bit. I just expect Ben to serve and volley a bunch. I expect him. He's hitting that off forehand better, but I just don't know if he's going to be able to get around because Sinner's weight of shot, it affects everything, right? You're seeing him against Sonego, and he's able to get around and hit that push forehand off to the forehand. Because of the pace of shot, I don't think he's going to be able to make that little circle C to hit it inside out, right? So is he going to have to hit that line? Where is he going to take his back in? Is he going to pound it middle of the court like he's rightfully done over the past 6 months? Sinner's pretty good from the middle of the court. You have to take shots. Second serves, I hope Ben runs around and hits massive forehands. I don't care if it's irresponsible and he misses 4. I want him to do it at 30 all again on Sinner's serve. He has to take the racket out of his hand as much as possible. And he has that option. Not saying it's going to work. Execution's really hard. You're going to get a couple of spots where you can make him uncomfortable, and you have to take them. But Ben's got 144 in his arm, and his serve bounces all over the place. He's probably got more pitches in the arsenal than any player on tour. Novak Zverev. I can't believe we're here, but Novak's the favorite. Like, he's the favorite at 37 years old. It's just crazy what he's doing. And the reason I say that, it's not because I'm surprised by it. It's because I'm amazed by it. Like, how long can you be the favorite? How long can you be the favorite against someone who's by far got the best resume to have never won a slam? Against someone who beat you in the Olympics in the final last time. I mean, it's very, like, I like my resume against a lot of guys that have won multiple slams. My resume pales in comparison to Alex Zverev outside of the one slam I won. I almost lost. I saved a match point in that. This guy's a really good player. And I think Novak's still the favorite based on what we saw against Carlos. He is there. He is in it. Didn't talk much about the physical ailment. Said that the painkillers kicked in, and that was all good after that. We'll see. We don't know what we're getting. No one's ever going to know. Everyone has a lot of absolute opinions about it, and no one really knows except for Novak and maybe Andy Murray now. I wonder if Murray's going like the behind the scenes conversations like with this stuff, because I know he had said something about Novak and how you kind of ignore what he's doing on the other side of the court. I wonder if he's going like Novak's like this, and this, and Murray's either going, I fucking knew it. or it's like I found myself wondering if Murray's going like it's this weird thing where he's like, okay, yeah, well, let's do this moving forward for the rest of this tournament, and also like putting his player hat on again. I knew it. Anyways, I found myself laughing at that setup. At that setup yesterday.
Sophie posted a funny thing on Instagram that's Murray shouting, and then she put a caption. It says, hit it to his backhand. And it's, coaching like you're a internet person, and Eubanks and Daniel Collins were laughing at it. And it's I just think watching him coach him, you're like, yeah, what is he telling Novak? But I think that's where it is. It's just like this next level conversation that they're having that's so far beyond any other coach and player conversation. Like, that's what I imagine's happening.
I got to imagine that Murray is having a blast because Murray's maybe the highest tennis IQ that I've played against, right? He's playing these big three, and he gets a lot of credit for his career, and I still don't think he gets enough credit for his career, right? Now, to have a guy that goes, okay, I'm Murray, I understand the game, I know how to take what I do and affect the match in the most positive way for myself to get a given outcome. And now I have a guy who can run in, serves at 105 on the body. And I have a guy that can cut the corners and can cover a foot more on each side, and has, at certain points in his career, Murray was, borderline the best defensive player in the world. And now he's going, oh, this guy is can play more defense. And is Murray's unbelievable at returning, and he's going, maybe this guy's even better at returning. So if you're Murray, it's like you still see and understand the game the same way, and also you have the best player ever to kind of follow your orders or follow your opinions or give feedback to. So I imagine the conversations are unbelievable. But to Sophie's point about like hit it to his backhand, I still remember like vividly, I rarely was snarky when everything was going my way. It tended to be like I was pissed, and therefore you don't believe that, do you, producer Mike?
No, not at all.
Yeah. Moving on. And I remember I was playing in Washington one time, and I was playing a good player named Juan Ignacio Chela, who I played a bunch, and he was this like lanky 6'3", 6'4". He didn't seem fast, but he had this sneaky game, and you felt like you were struggling against him more than you should, but backhand was great. And I remember this, it was in Washington, and some joker who was, some complete chucker who was sitting, 7 rows up, hit it to his backhand. And I just stopped. And I was like, okay, what do you do for a living? He's like, I'm an accountant. I'm like, shut up. Like, I'm not coming to your job telling you like what to, like, and then I'm also like, I go, if you knew anything about anything, this guy's backhand's better, you idiot. Like this guy's backhand is like a world-class shot. It's the rest of it that I have to figure out. And it's hilarious because I snapped, and I needed that conversation. I needed him to know just how little he knew, And I think you saw Coco talk about it also the other day. She's like, the internet coaches are driving me insane. Like, you don't think that she knows everything that we know? But it's different when you have to deal with the best players on earth. You can't hide your weaknesses from the best players on earth. This game is really, really tough. Almost as tough as sitting in this studio after it was 10 degrees last night in a full parka to deliver the show. And I will tell you, Techie Sean, great effort getting here today. Mike, you can see him right there. He just stayed in his warm, cozy house, just mailed it in completely.
It's lovely.
Techie Sean just battled the elements, driving across town in the snow, got out of his car and went full banana peel, apparently.
Let's not tell the insurance company.
Listen, I don't know who
you signed a waiver, right, Sean?
Yeah, workers' comp. My back hurts.
And that was it's a great way to end. We're going to go call our lawyers. Thank you for watching Served.